A forbidden book foretold that Princess Mia would marry a beast from the northern forest, and its first two prophecies had already come true. Her father found one way to resist fate: 3 duels. If the beast survived them all, she would be his. But on the eve of the first fight, Mia met a stranger with winter-colored eyes who seemed to know the monster far too well. Before the final sword fell, she'd have to decide whom she feared and whom she believed. On the night before the beast was meant to die for her, Mia could not stay in her room. Snow covered the palace courtyard, and the torches along the northern wall trembled in the wind, as if even fire did not want to look toward the forest. Tomorrow, the first duel would begin. Not a tournament. Her father had forbidden that word. This was a loophole, the last one the king had found between his daughter and the prophecy. 3 duels. If the beast won all 3, Mia would become his wife. If he fell, there would be no one left for her to marry. So simple. So monstrous. All day she had tried to believe her father was not arranging a killing. He was protecting her. The beast had come on his own. No one had asked him to leave the northern forest and stand before the throne in terrible silence. But whenever she imagined the morning, the thought returned. Someone would bleed because of her. Perhaps the beast. Perhaps the men chosen to save her. Perhaps the whole kingdom, if the prophecy refused to be cheated. Mia took her cloak and left. The corridors were almost empty. When she passed the eastern wing, her eyes found the locked door at the end of the hall. 2 years ago, that door had only one warning: do not enter. Of course they had entered. 3 sisters, alone in the palace while their father fought a war in the south. Inside there had been no treasure, no corpse, no monster. Only a book. A book that had predicted her eldest sister would marry the Prince of the East, her second sister the Prince of the West, and Mia would become the bride of the northern beast. They had laughed then. Then the first prince came in spring. The second came in autumn, and 3 days ago, when snow closed the northern pass, the beast walked out of the forest. Mia tore her gaze away from the door and went outside. The cold struck her face, and at last she could breathe. She walked toward the northern wall. Perhaps because the forest waited beyond it. Perhaps because tomorrow other people would fight for her life, and she wanted to face the darkness once by herself. Beyond it, the ground sloped toward a frozen stream. On the other side stood the first trees of the northern forest. No torches, no voices, only snow and shadow. Mia stepped forward. "You should not be here." She turned. A man stood beneath an old apple tree near the wall. She had not heard him approach. He was tall and pale, with dark hair touched by the wind and eyes that at first seemed gray. Then he came closer, and she saw they were not gray. They were winter-colored, eyes like the sky before snow. "Usually," she said, once her voice returned, "when a strange man appears in a palace garden at night, the princess is the one who says that." He almost smiled. "Then I should leave before you call the guards." "If I wanted guards, I would have called them already." "Is that trust?" "No, curiosity." His smile appeared fully, just for a moment. It looked unused. Mia felt something move inside her chest, not fear. That troubled her more. "Who are you?" she asked. His silence lasted too long. "No one your court is expecting." That is not an answer. The safest answers rarely are. She studied him. Plain dark cloak, no crest, no sign of where he came from. But he did not stand like a thief. There was something royal in him. Not in his clothes, in his restraint. "If you came for the duels," Mia said, "you are too late. My father has chosen his champions." Something changed in his face. "So it is true," he said. "They will give him a chance to win your hand with blood." "To win? Is that what you call it?" What do you call it? Delaying disaster. The stranger looked toward the forest. Why did the king accept his claim at all? Mia gave a quiet, tired laugh. Because kings are not always as free as they look from far away. He watched her carefully. She did not know why she answered him. Perhaps because he was a stranger. Perhaps because tomorrow someone would die, and she was tired of silence. There is a book in the palace, she said. It predicted my sister's marriages. Both came true. And yours? The cold slipped beneath her sleeves. Mine said I would become the bride of the northern beast. He did not move, only his eyes darkened. And if you refuse? My father's kingdom will fall. For a moment, something crossed his face that she had not expected. Guilt. That is why the duels, he said. That is why the duels. If the beast dies, there can be no marriage. And perhaps no prophecy. Perhaps. The way he said it irritated her. You do not believe that. I believe prophecies are rarely so easily deceived. So you think I should simply go with him? I did not say that. But you thought it. He was silent. Then he said, I thought that perhaps a beast does not always come because he wants to take something. What else would he come for? He looked at her, and Mia, without understanding why, fell silent. Perhaps he is looking for someone who will not see only his skin. The words should have sounded absurd. They did not. The first bell rang from the palace. The man stiffened. I have to go. At least tell me your name. For one moment he looked as if he might break some law older than any her father had written. But when he spoke, his voice was only a whisper. I cannot. Disappointment struck her harder than it should have. Then perhaps you truly are no one. His eyes softened. No, he said. You simply do not know what to call me yet. Then he left, not toward the palace, toward the forest. The next morning, the beast entered the arena without a sound. He was enormous, covered in snow-white fur marked with old scars. His head looked like something between wolf and boar, with heavy jaws and curved tusks dark as tarnished silver. He did not speak. He did not growl. He only stood in the center and waited. The first champion was the captain of the palace guard, a man who had won real wars. The captain attacked first. The beast moved aside, then struck. The sword flew from the man's hand and landed in the snow. The beast could have killed him. Everyone saw it, but he did not. He only placed one massive paw against the fallen man's chest and waited until the judge declared the duel over. When he stepped back, blood dripped from his foreleg. A small wound, almost nothing. Mia told herself she did not care. That evening, she returned to the northern wall. She told herself she was not looking for the stranger. He was waiting by the stream. He was paler than he had been the night before, and his left arm was bandaged beneath his sleeve. Mia noticed, then hated herself for noticing. You were right, she said. The beast did not kill the captain. Did you expect him to? I do not know what I expected. His smile was sad. That is a beginning. Why do you speak of him as if he is not a monster? He looked toward the forest. And if he is not? I saw him. So did I. Then you know what he looks like. I have seen men who looked better and were far more cruel. She did not want that to touch her. It did. The second duel was worse. Her father had chosen a knight from the western border, a man who did not try to fight beautifully. He tried to survive. And he almost did. His blade cut the beast's shoulder, then his thigh, then the shoulder again. The blood on the snow looked too red. Mia waited to feel relief. It did not come. When the beast fell to one knee, the crowd shouted. Someone cried that the end was near. Mia could not breathe. The beast lifted his head. For one moment, his gaze found hers, and she saw something no monster should have had in his eyes. Not rage, not hunger. Shame. As if the very fact that she saw him like this hurt him. Then he rose. Not with a roar, with effort, like a man who had no right to fall. The duel ended soon after. The knight lived, but lost his sword. The beast remained standing, but barely. That night Mia went to the stream early. The stranger was not there. She waited long enough for anger to become worry, and worry to become fear she had no right to feel. At last he came out of the forest, pale, exhausted, one arm held close to his body. Mia moved toward him before she could stop herself. "You are hurt." "It does not matter. People only say that when it matters." A weak smile touched his mouth. "Then I must be a poor liar." She looked at the bandage, at his shoulder, at the way he stood as if every breath had a price. "Tomorrow is the final duel," she said. "I know. My father says tomorrow it will all be over." "Perhaps. You always say that as if endings are never where people look for them. They usually are not." The wind lifted his dark hair. He looked less like a stranger now and more like someone already vanishing. "Why do you come here?" Mia asked. He looked at her. "Because you do." The answer was so simple it left her defenseless. "I do not even know your name." "I know." "I do not know where you come from." "I know." "And I do not know why I keep waiting for you." That made him go still. Then he said, very softly, "Perhaps because some part of you already knows more than fear allows you to admit." Mia reached toward his face, then stopped before she touched him. He closed his eyes as if even that almost kindness was more than he could bear. "Tomorrow," he said, "when everyone else is certain, be careful." "Of what?" "Certainty." A faint, bitter smile touched his mouth. "It has killed kinder things than doubt." Before she could ask him anything else, he stepped back into the trees. By morning, the snow had hardened into a crust of ice. Mia stood by her window while servants dressed her in pale blue silk. She watched the arena below, the clean white ground, the gathered soldiers, the place where blood would fall. Her father came to her himself. He looked as if he had not slept. "Today it ends," he said. Mia did not turn from the window. "How can you be sure?" For the first time in days, there was almost relief in his voice. "The third night will not fail." She turned then. She understood before she wanted to, not from his words, from the way he said them. "What have you done?" "What had to be done." "What have you done?" "The blade has been treated." "With what?" "Something to slow him, weaken him." Her father's voice hardened before it could shake. "Enough for the night to finish it." The room seemed to tilt. "That is not a duel." "It is salvation." "It is murder." "He is a beast." Those words should have been enough. 2 days ago they would have been. Now they were not. The final duel began beneath a leaden sky. The third knight wore white armor, and his sword shone so cleanly that no one would think of poison on its edge. But Mia saw it. Not the poison itself, but the knowledge of it. The beast entered slowly. Yesterday's wounds still marked him. One shoulder was stiff, his steps were heavy. The knight attacked at once. The beast avoided the first blow, barely. The second cut across his side, a shallow wound, too shallow to matter. But the beast staggered as if the blade had carried fire into his blood. Mia's stomach turned. The poison was not meant to kill quickly. It was meant to make him slow, helpless, to make murder look like victory. The knight struck again. This time the beast caught the blow on one tusk and drove him back. For one clear instant he could have ended it. He could have crushed the man against the snow and saved himself. He did not. Even weakened, even betrayed. He refused to become the monster everyone had already named him. The knight raised his sword for the final blow. The beast fell to one knee. Then he looked at her. Winter eyes, eyes like the sky before snow. No, Mia did not think the word. She felt it in her blood, in her bones. The stranger, the beast, the same. She stood. Her father caught her wrist. Mia, no! But she was already running. Someone cried her name. The knight turned, sword still raised. Mia crossed the snow and stepped between him and the beast. Stop! The arena fell silent. The knight went pale. Your Highness, move aside. She did not move. Behind her, the beast breathed heavily, so close she could feel his warmth through the cold air. Her father descended into the arena, his face white with anger and fear. The duel is not finished. It is finished. You do not know what you are doing. Maybe she did not know everything, but she knew enough. She knew the beast had refused to kill. She knew the stranger had come to her each night wearing the beast's wounds on his own body. She knew that if she let that sword fall, she would not merely save herself. She would betray the only person who had looked at her not as a prize, but as a person. She turned to the beast. He was on his knees, huge, wounded, silent. Everyone else saw horror. At last, Mia saw his silence for what it was. Not emptiness, a prison. I will marry him, she said. The words fell over the arena heavier than snow. Her father whispered her name, not as a command this time, but as a plea. Mia did not look at him. If she did, she might break. Not because the book demands it, she said. She held out her hand to the beast. Her fingers trembled, but her hand remained. Because I choose. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the beast lowered his head and touched his brow to her fingers. A whisper rose from the crowd. Mia did not hear it. She felt only the warmth beneath the fur and the slight, impossible tremor of a creature who had not expected to be spared. They were married before sunset. There were no songs and no flowers. The priests spoke the vows in breaking voices. The nobles kept their distance. Her father looked as though he were watching his own defeat dressed in white. When the priest asked whether the groom accepted, the beast could not answer. He only bowed his head. Mia said yes for both of them. After that, the northern forest took them. The carriage had no driver, the horses were black, with silver eyes. The palace disappeared behind them, and with it every face that had known her before this night. The beast lay across from her, too large for the narrow space, his breathing uneven. Mia looked at his wounds, one where the stranger had held his arm, another where his voice had gone weak. Everything was arranging itself before her, and still her mind resisted. When they reached the northern castle, the sun was already setting. Dark towers rose against the snow. Iron gates opened without a hand. Windows stared down, narrow as wounds. Inside, fires burned everywhere, as if someone had tried to convince Winter that life still remained here. The beast led her through a hall of black stone and old banners. His steps grew heavier with every turn. By the time they reached a room with a stone hearth, his breath had become ragged. Then he swayed. Mia rushed toward him before fear could stop her. "Don't fall," she whispered. A foolish plea, a human one. The beast looked at her, and in his eyes she saw him again. The sun vanished beyond the windows. First, his shadow changed, then his breathing. The fur withdrew like smoke. The enormous body folded inward. Bones shifted. Tusks disappeared. Where the beast had stood a moment before, a man collapsed onto the stone floor. Wounded, pale, familiar. Mia did not step back. The stranger from the northern wall lay before her, his winter-colored eyes fixed on hers. He opened his mouth. "Now you know." His voice was weak, but it was his. Mia knelt beside him. Fear, relief, anger, tenderness. They rose together until none could become words. At last, she said only, "You should have told me." Pain moved across his face. "I couldn't." And she knew. Perhaps not the rules, not the curse, not the price, but the truth inside those 2 words. He had not been silent because he did not trust her. He had been silent because something had held him by the throat. Mia touched his face. He closed his eyes as if mercy were harder to endure than his wounds. "What is your name?" she asked. This time he answered, "Robert." The name was quiet, real, given freely. Outside, night pressed against the windows of the northern castle. The forest beyond them was still dark. The curse was not gone. When morning came, Robert would wear the beast's skin again. There were still truths he could not speak, and shadows in this castle that had not yet shown their faces. But for the first time since the book had spoken her future, Mia did not feel like a girl being handed to fate. She had seen the beast in the arena. She had seen the man on the floor, and she had chosen both. Robert's hand moved weakly beneath hers. Not much, only enough to hold on. Mia stayed beside him until the fire burned low and the snow softened against the windows. The world beyond the castle was still cold. The forest was still watching. Nothing about the life ahead of her would be simple, but Robert was alive. He was real. And when he opened his winter-colored eyes, Mia no longer saw the prophecy that had taken her from home. She saw the person it had led her to. For tonight, that was enough.